For years, if you wanted the best running shoe on the market, it was pretty obvious to most. You just pick one of the big known brands in the sport like Nike or Asics. But that started to change this year. And online I've been noticing something I'd almost want to call a Chinese running shoe revolution. You can't go on YouTube, any online running forum right now, without people talking about these shoes. And it's not just people saying that these shoes are good for the price. People are saying that these shoes might actually be better than the known big brand shoes. And I wanted to find out if they're actually as good as the internet is making them sound. So I bought 3 of the most hyped Chinese running shoes I could find. The Dynafish Xiaonian, I have no idea how to pronounce that properly, but yeah, this I've heard a lot of good things about. And the Li-Ning Red Hare 9 Ultra. And the Li-Ning Fedian Elite 6, which is the one I'm the most curious about, and those should be landing in the mail any day now. And I'm going to start with these 2 training shoes that everyone online seems to be pretty obsessed with right now. And later in this video, once the Fedian Elite 6 arrives, that's Li-Ning's sort of super road racing shoe, I will put that head to head against one of its closest competitor, the Nike Alphafly. Back here on the treadmill in my own little lab, where I will do blood lactate testing my heart rate, and try to get a fair comparison on the performance between the Chinese super shoe and the Nike super shoe. But let's start with these 2 that I've already put some miles in, and one of these has already surprised me quite much. So I paid $170 for these, and I did that ordering them from AliExpress, and this is a simple way to pay the import taxes and shipping and get them here to Norway. But I've understood that you can do this way cheaper ordering directly from a Chinese site like Taobao and using some sort of shipping agent. But still, if these shoes are as good as everyone online seems to think, $170 it's not cheap, but it's for sure not expensive either. For context, the Adidas Adizero Evo SL, which has been probably the most talked about value trainer over the past year, and that most people compare this Dynafish to, cost around the same if you would to buy it in a store here in Norway. Before I start running this, I want to mention one thing that was the first thing that struck me with these shoes, that there are no big logos on this shoe, no flashy design elements, it's just clean and pretty minimal. And I really like this clean back design. The Dynafish uses a single layer of supercritical TPE foam, no plate, no secondary foam, no complex foam stack of different foam types, just one material of this sort of super foam that is both really lightweight and gives great cushioning and any return. And the stack is 40mm in the heel and 34mm in the forefoot. And in my size, US 10.5, they weigh in at only 198 grams, which is really lightweight, and that was the first thing I noticed when I started running in these. As mentioned, I already put some miles in them. I run about 5 runs in them, and I tried to be skeptical and not just follow all the internet hype around these shoes. But to be honest, I was pretty much sold after the first run. Running in this is super soft and cushioned, and it's the same sort of energy return feeling you have come to expect from super racing shoes. And there's also something refreshing about the simplicity of it. A lot of modern super trainers are getting increasingly complex with these dual density foam types, carbon plates, and the Dynafish just said, here's one great foam, here's a well-designed rocker, and here's a clean upper, and that's it. So these shoes has already become one of my absolute favorite pairs when it comes to all road running that is not super easy. For things like threshold intervals and the tempo runs and a bit faster paced long runs, I tend to choose these shoes now. So at least when it comes to these, the Chinese running shoe hype actually delivered. So let's talk about the other hyped shoe I have tried, the Li-Ning Red Hare 9 Ultra. Running shoes and these long names. The Red Hare 9 Ultra cost me $160 delivered here to Norway with import taxes, and it weighs 260 grams in my size. Again, if you buy it directly from China or via a Chinese web page and a shipping agent, even after paying the import taxes, you should get this a lot cheaper. So this shoe is something completely different. Where the Dynafish is simple and clean, The red Hare is the opposite, you can say. Li-Ning has stuffed a 3-layer midsole in here, a soft race foam on top, a pressurized super boom capsule in the middle that is some sort of foam bladder that is supposed to trap energy on compression and then release it back on toe off. And there's also a small fiberglass plate sandwiched in the midfoot. The heel stack is 46 millimeters. So this is a massive max cushion shoe, and considering that, although it's heavier than the Dynafish, it's still pretty lightweight. And running in this feels like nothing else I've tried. It's extremely cushioned, a bit unstable, or quite unstable, and has a very particular feeling that I think you'll either love or find a bit too much. Honestly, this is for sure a fun shoe, and I can see why people are excited about it online. And for hard road surfaces and easy runs where the goal is just to try to protect your legs and keep moving, this is a pretty cool experience. But for me personally, it's not a shoe I'd reach for as my main training shoe. The ride is just a bit too special for me at least, and maybe the uniqueness will grow on me, but I think for now I will save this for days when I want a fun easy run on hard pavement and want to save my legs a bit and get a bit of a different load than my other shoes. Now today the shoe I have been waiting for is supposed to arrive, the Li-Ning Elite 6, the super road racer shoe that got quite hyped after the great runner Suguru Osako used them when he set the current Japanese national marathon record. So let's see if I can run fast in them as well. Here they are, they finally arrived, and that's another a bit negative thing with these Chinese shoes. If you order them at least to where I live in Norway, that shipping can take quite some time. And these costed me $250, taxes included, which might sound quite a lot, but comparing them to other super racing shoes like the Alphafly 3 that I will compare it closer to in this video, here in Norway those cost me $300. So these are cheaper, even doing the expensive easy ordering path from AliExpress. But how do they perform against the Alphafly? I'm super excited to test them in the lab, but first let's compare the weight of them. So here the Alphafly weigh in at 233 grams in my US size 10.5, and the Fidian Elite weigh in at 222. So I win for the Fidian both on the price and weight so far. Now it's finally time for me to get some proper data on these shoes that are ready there to run fast on the treadmill. And I have everything set up here. Here I have the lactate testing equipment. The shoes are ready. So it's just for me to jump on the treadmill and see if these Chinese super shoes can hold up to the Nike Alphaflies. So here is my testing protocol. I will run the exact same interval workout 4 times 5 minutes at my threshold pace on the treadmill, both today and tomorrow. And I will be switching shoes between each rep. And to counter the fact that the heart rate naturally drifts higher with each interval in a session like this, I will flip the order on day 2. So today I start with the Fidian and tomorrow I start with the Alphafly. And besides tracking my heart rate, I will also take a lactate measurement after each interval. So this should give me a reasonably fair comparison of how much effort it actually takes for me to run at this pace in each shoe. But a quick caveat, this is of course a single subject test and it is far from perfect science. But it's the closest I can get to get some data I actually trust when it comes to picking my next race shoe. Okay, so let's look at the results, and after I show you all of the data, I'll give you my honest answer on whether these Chinese super shoes are going to replace the Alphafly as my go-to road racing shoe. But before I even looked at all of these numbers though, purely based on feel, I actually preferred the Fidian Elite. It felt more cushioned, and overall it felt like a smoother and more natural ride throughout the stride. This is the kind of shoe I can imagine doing a really good job saving your legs in the later stages of a full marathon. And the intervals in this just felt a little bit easier. But let's see what the actual data says. My average heart rate with the Alphafly was 163, and with the Fedian Elite, drum roll, it was 161. So close, but lower with these. And the lactate tells the same story, 2.9 millimole with the Alphaflies and 2.5 millimoles with the Fedian Elite. And the difference here are of course small, but what I find convincing is that everything points in the same direction. The feeling, the heart rate and the lactate seems to show that I spend a little bit less energy running in these on the same paces compared to the Alphaflies. So for me the answer is pretty clear. If I was going to line up for a marathon or a half marathon tomorrow, I'd be choosing the Fedian Elite 6, and I've been genuinely really positive surprised with my early testing of this. Let me know in the comments if there are other shoes you want me to put head to head like this. Train smart, have fun, and I'll see you in the next video.